monitors on site almost 24/7. And that's really been really well received from the city and from the passengers who use the system. They're really excited about the signs that let them know, hey, the bus is coming in 4 minutes, 5 minutes, etc. So we're really happy. There are a couple of minor things as far as the facility itself. Some water hookups. The hot water was plumbed to the ice machine, which is it's little things like that, that we're getting fixed. Some of the things you don't notice until you actually move people into the building. But we've got Cheryl's down there. We've got Kendall and Jamie Snodgrass, our street supervisors, and our operations team who are down there in the building. And it's again, knock on wood, it's flowing really well, and I'm really excited with how it's played out. And we continue to get media inquiries about how well it's going. So really excited, and thank you guys for showing up and support.
All the cameras and security equipment are up and fully operational?
Yeah.
Yes, other than two cameras in a certain location they're going in and out. It's the length of the run. We had to put in a repeater for the PoE. It's powered over Ethernet.
Okay.
It can only go a certain distance.
How many feet can that go before you need a repeater?
About 150.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. It starts to lose power at 150.
Okay.
They're certified to 300. You start to hit that wall there.
Okay.
And we're working with Chief Hunt in the city to make sure that cameras, that they had some concerns about making sure they had coverage of their facilities also. So we're going to make sure we can help work with them where we can. I mean, we have some limitations on the number of individuals who can sign in, and firewall concerns that we're not going to expose ourselves but we're going to be as accommodating as possible to our law enforcement partners.
So they will have access into our camera system, or they would come to us and seek
They
access?
could ask. I defer to Travis on that, but I think it would
Currently,
be
I do have it set up in an environment where they can log in. It's a shared login, but the police could log in at any time and get video. If that doesn't work out, we could always work with them and retrieve the video for them.
How many cameras do we have down there?
It's right at 18.
Okay.
And do they only have access to the camera systems, the police?
Yes.
Right now,
Yeah.
What was
Is it limited to that camera NVR rather than our entire server?
correct?
Yeah. They don't have access to that.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Well, it was a good event. I know there was a number of board members there. Mr. Tolliver was there. I saw Eric there, Valerie, Jay. There was somebody else now that I'm...
Connie was there.
Yes, Connie was there. That's right, we rode the bus together.
Yep.
And then as I was leaving, the mayor made a point of speaking with Sean about coordinating efforts to keep both facilities, both Slack Plaza and City Center, safe and secure and well maintained, so that we can encourage the right type of foot traffic through there. Sean did a fantastic job. He's a good public speaker and did a good job. Doug was there. If anybody didn't get a chance to talk to Doug, it's worth calling him and thanking him for the work that he did, because that really was a capstone to his career, and he was happy to do it. He was very touched. Did you have a picture that you?
Yeah, I've got a picture, and I don't have it. Maybe I can. Yeah, I can email it to you real quick, Travis. But what we did, and I kind of hinted to it in my speech. I didn't want to ruin the surprise for Doug, but we actually put a plaque up and named the conference room down there after Doug Hartley. And we wanted to make sure we gave him that credit, because we know that he's worked so hard on this entire operation. And that's when I said, hey, your name's going to be on the building for a long time, and we posted that on social media. I'll send it to.
Yeah.
That's a nice plaque, very good.
It was a
And
nice
he was
plaque.
shocked, to say the least, because I happened to be in the conference room about the time that he was aware that it was there, and he was just couldn't say enough about it.
That's cool.
Yeah, with how much Doug was down there, it's a miracle that he didn't see that. But he, coincidentally, the day we installed it was the day we got the new system on the door scanners. So he didn't.
Doug was locked out.
He literally could not get in there. He was offended until we said, Doug, it was because we didn't want to hide. We didn't want to hide it from you. Okay, Travis, I just sent that over to you. But thank you. No, it went really well. I was really happy with it.
So, yeah, there it is.
And we will. We're waiting on the conference room chairs to be delivered down there. If we can accommodate and have, maybe a ceremonial board meeting down there
Mhm.
in the coming months. I think we should, to try to make the most of that room. It's a little bit smaller of a conference room, but it's still really nice, and we'd love for you guys to see it from that perspective. We got the blinds installed on the windows, and that's a really nice upgrade. It looks really sharp. I mean,
The whole area looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, all that whole area looks great.
really
They've done a
does.
good job. They've done a good job.
We were down there yesterday. We did a photo shoot with the Kinship Goods. They're making some KRT inspired merchandise, and we were down there, and just the activity and the number of people coming through that plaza, it's tremendous.
Great.
Okay, so item 6D, facility improvement plan.
Yeah, so from fun stuff to some stuff it's not as fun to talk about. Kara's going to give us an update on the facility improvement plan.
I think it's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun for me. So if you'll remember last month, we had Ron from Wendell on the phone, and he sort of went through their trip here, their visit, and then just this past week, we got their final report. It was emailed out to everyone, but I did go ahead and print a couple copies.
Mhm.
I'm old school, I kind of like to be able to hold one and read it. But if you read through the draft on your computer, you probably saw the theme of past its useful life and not up to code. So that's the general theme of this report. To make all the improvements that we would need to make over here, plus purchase equipment that we need replaced anyways, it's about $22 million. It's more than halfway to a new facility. So we would like to go ahead and get environmental work done on sort of that far end of the parking lot and focus on designing a new building. So,
Did they give us I didn't see in there where they gave us an estimate for a new building.
they did not give us an
Okay.
estimate for new building.
Okay.
No, but they sort of gave us a rough cost of $30 million for a whole new building.
Okay.
And that's just kind of a ballpark figure that they gave us during that initial meeting. Now, I can go over this report step by step if y'all want to. It's a lot of engineering speak and technical jargon, but, the general thing is past useful life. Things like airflow are really bad. The pits that we have, nobody likes to use pits anymore because the airflow is so difficult to control. So we want to have lifts in the new building. A couple of the other things that stood out is the concrete is sort of deteriorating in there. I mean, this building was built in the 1940s for trolley cars, and it's too big for what we use it. It's much better to build a whole new building that's designed for buses, the buses that we use, and plan for any growth that we could have in the future.
So this 22 million is to just revamp what we already have versus 30 million or whatever, do the whole new thing.
Correct. Correct. And that's just a ballpark figure.
Right.
Now, there would need to be some environmental work to be done over in the parking lot because we're not 100% sure what was under that parking lot before opening the parking lot. But we think we can get a NEPA categorical exclusion, which just means is basically we're doing some documentation. We can work with Wendell to get that done, or we can use one of our other on-call consultants to do that. I've got a cost estimate for both Wendell and Thrasher. They're both comparable. The one cost estimate I have from Wendell does include their concept design. I would still recommend having Wendell do design because they are specifically a company that does transit work. Thrasher is not used to planning bus garages, quite frankly. So, but they're more than capable of handling the documentation.
So when you say they're comparable, you're talking on cost or quality?
I'm not as familiar with Thrasher's work for quality to speak to that. I do know that they both submitted decent proposals for our on-call engineering RFP. Other than that, I haven't had a lot of work with Thrasher in the past. I've worked with Wendell a lot though.
When we saw Wendell's presentation, which they went over.
And that was for
what we're
combined.
gonna get.
Was that combined? That was for everything, a building
They
and
looked
it
at
all.
both buildings,
Right,
yes.
that's what I thought. It was for both of them.
They did a very good.
Right.
presentation.
And the 30 million would be the combination of
The two.
administration and all of the maintenance and shop
Right, that's
space?
what, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Okay.
And you would move everything to there, over
Yes.
there?
Basically just flip-flop.
Yeah.
This building would remain, but that building would be demolished.
Or we could turn it into indoor bus parking.
Okay.
Or covered bus
We would have to,
parking.
yeah.
It would help with our maintenance.
And what would happen to this building?
Well, we could demolish it, we could rent it out, anything.
What's the age of this building, does anybody know?
Is it original 1940s too?
It's in the report. I mean, it has some deficiencies also. It was remodeled, I think, in the late 90s.
It was remodeled in the 90s, but there were still some issues to this building. There's
That's
some
what I don't
problems.
remember. What's wrong with this? Is there anything that's wrong with this building that needs
They
updated?
recommended some, we just had the HVAC replaced, but they recommended cleaning of the air ducts,
And the
and replacement of air filters, just,
The
if you
yeah.
notice, it's a little bit dirtier on some of the air vents. And, the lintels outside above the windows, rust is developing, it's
Okay.
gonna cause some structural damage eventually.
So in other words, there's no major structural or any problems with this building per se, it's just that is functionally obsolete over there.
Exactly, yeah.
So Kara, what's the recommendation? Because there's a couple of things we'd like to probably pursue, the possibility of doing something across the street, but in the near term, we have some safety concerns here. Can
I
you
think-
outline what that looks like?
Yeah, I think we work with Wendell and have them sort of give us a do or die list, things that have to get done over here while we're pursuing a new facility. I don't expect that list to be very long. Chris is online, so if you wanna jump in and identify things that are critical, Chris, feel free to, but, to me,
Yeah, some of the things that would need to be done in the near future would be work in the pits with the lighting and receptacles, things like that. Possibly some temporary ventilation installed in the pits, and then also they noted just some things like access needs restricted to our transfer switch, to our backup generator. Some things like that, extra pull stations for the fire alarms. So I agree with Kara. I don't think that list would be too terribly long, but there are some things like the lighting and receptacles and electrical issues that need addressed immediately or in the near future.
Chris, what about the condition of the concrete around the pits?
So they sounded the concrete and said that while it does show deterioration, that it's not in any immediate danger of collapsing or anything like that. But it is deteriorating.
And what about the side access to the pits? Does that need to be revised?
That's something that would take major construction to do. So that's probably not going to be feasible with the current pit design unless we decide to not go with the new facility. Then that's something that we would have to look at going to our current facility. So, but it's such a major project right now that it really wouldn't be feasible in the short term.
Okay. So can Wendell tell us what the minimum is that we need to do for safety purposes to clear up some of these issues?
And I guess how long it would take, how long those changes would, need to be in before, while you were transitioning, if you did that? I mean, what's the bare minimum that you need to spend right now? If it took 2 years to build a building, what do you have to do over the next 24 months to stay in compliance with this building, or this building to stay in compliance?
And we can definitely get those numbers from
Okay.
Wendell. We'll have them outline a priority list for us.
And so they would then start designing some facility changes here that would be a separate scope of work than what's already been done, or?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm jumping around because I got some things going through my mind. On the environmental side,
Yes.
does the engineer that does that work then communicate with FTA or whatever federal agency? Okay.
Yeah, or it can go through me too, since I have the FDA contacts, but yeah.
Then my point is, I'm wondering between the two entities, who has a stronger relationship to avoid I don't know what the standards are, but like a phase 1 environmental turned into a phase something else that takes 3 or 4 years.
Sure. I think either engineering firm is capable of handling, whatever work needs to be done. I think there's something to be said with Wendell keeping it all in one office. It may be more efficient, but I've also been on teams where I've worked with multiple engineering firms. One just handles the NEPA documentation because they're
Does that create a rift?
I don't think it does. At the end of the day, we're here to pay them to do a job, and they see it as that.
Right, and we need to be cognizant of using taxpayer funds to
Right.
do something as efficiently as we can.
Correct.
So do you have a recommendation on the environmental report?
I see it both ways. I think it's perfectly fine if we keep it all with Wendell, but I also see the benefit in using Thrasher too, as a local firm.
So what are the costs?
The cost, so Wendell gave me a cost estimate for doing NEPA, a Title VI equity analysis, and a concept design for $50,000. I got a cost estimate for Thrasher just to do the NEPA for $16,000. So
What's the Title VI equity?
that is just saying, Title VI refers to minorities and limited English proficiency people. So it's just sort of saying we're not putting anyone at a disadvantage for building a new building over here.
Is it something that would be required?
It's something that's required, but it's, we already own the property, we're already functioning, we're serving as that purpose anyways, we wouldn't be putting anybody out by moving it across the street.
Yeah, I assume that process is much more involved if you're acquiring new property
Correct.
and tearing
Correct.
existing buildings
Yeah,
down.
so we've got an advantage here, we've already got the property.
So what is the time frame for the FTA to say that, yes, this site would be approved?
I don't know the timeframe for that, I can't speak to that, because I've never been in this process before.
Okay.
So it appears, I guess the next steps are to find out what the minimum amount of maintenance we need to go over here to keep this thing going, and then find out over here as far as environmental, how much it would cost, or if it's gonna be cost prohibitive to move forward with potentially having a new building, and
Right.
what complications
And I
might
don't
be
think we're
expected.
looking at anything sort of cost prohibitive from moving over there.
Mm-hmm.
I think because we already own the property and we have a good general idea about its history, we could get a NEPA categorical exclusion pretty easily.
And would it make sense to go ahead and have Thrasher get a bid for the same thing that we have from Wendell for over here to get all that, or is that just out of their scope of work or what they do?
Wendell provided us a cost estimate that included a concept design.
Okay.
We want Wendell to design the building because they're more familiar with designing
Right.
a bus facility than Thrasher is.
I was talking about just the, what was the one thing you said was $50,000 versus 16? The environmental
It
part.
included environmental and the concept design.
Yeah. So Thrasher could do that same thing and give us,
Environmental.
it just seems like it might make sense to have a different entity to do that piece of it.
I agree.
Because I think Wendell is incentivized to sell us on a new building, and it seems like it makes sense to have a Thrasher to go ahead and do that if they can do it at a comparable price.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause that's a big difference, 50,000 and 16.
But they're totally
But
different.
they're
scopes of
different
work.
things, that's what I was
Right,
saying.
but I'm talking about for the environmental part, which is
But-
all we need right now, right?
But that 50 includes other things above and beyond the environmental.
But do we need that now, though, that's what I'm saying. The 16,000 is what we need now, correct? For the environmental part?
I mean, I guess there's a possibility environmental will come back and say, you can't build on this
That's what I'm
because
saying.
there's something here that's gonna prohibit that.
Just the environmental part for 16,000.
Yeah, yes.
And that's what we need to know before we can really do anything.
If you parse it out that finely, then yes, you'd want to just do that.
Do those other things have to be done to the other things that Wendell, if you move forward with the building, I guess the other things would have to be done anyhow?
Eventually we would need.
You'd have to do them
design.
anyhow.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Has it sat long enough to build on?
I think it has. I think it was done in the 90s. Is that right, Scott?
Yeah.
It was around 1993. But who knows? It's been capped for all these years, basically. It's totally paved and all the groundwater's collected. So it's hard to tell.
I
So,
guess that'd be in the study, wouldn't it?
I'm sorry,
I guess that would be in one of the studies, wouldn't it?
they're gonna,
I mean, it makes sense to me, so I don't necessarily have a problem with Thrasher doing this, but obviously if we go through the environmental process and we can't build over there, we're not gonna end up paying Wendell $50,000 anyway, cause they're not gonna do the design concept work. So,
Mhm.
I don't have a strong opinion either way, but I don't know that, I mean, if we go with Wendell, I don't know that we're necessarily committing the 50,000 if there's an environmental issue.
you think they'd stage that work and they wouldn't just full board be doing everything at the same time? Okay.
I just think if we've got a local company
Mm-hmm.
and it's state taxpayers' money, I like to try to keep, keep some of it with a local
I
company.
think that's very valid. Okay, so
So-
does the, go ahead, Eric.
And I was just saying, what do we need to do from here? What
That's,
would be the
that's
next
kind of
step?
what I was wanting to say. Do we
Okay.
need-
So I don't need a formal motion,
All right.
I just wanted y'all to discuss it and sort of kind of give me direction of to shoot, go with Thrasher or Wendell to do the NEPA.
So we've already bid those engineering services on retainer, we can
That's
essentially
right.
move forward with
I forgot
either,
about
but
that.
we would feel more comfortable with clarity and direction from the board.
So I think the two work orders that I hear coming from this discussion is, one, the deal with safety as soon as possible.
Mhm.
And secondly, to have Thrasher engaged to do the environmental work. Mhm.
Right, I think that makes sense, I agree with that. Do we need a motion to do that, or is that something, okay, I agree with that.
Anybody have any other thoughts? Anybody online that's wanting to jump in?
Not current.
Okay. Is there anybody online anymore, Travis? Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Gene.
You're welcome.
Chris,
I think
anything
you all
else?
have it.
No, I don't have anything to add really. Just that I think it's a good idea that we get these life and safety issues taken care of as soon as possible, and have Wendell put together the report for us that outlines what those things are. Of course, we don't want to spend too much money doing things. If we're going to be moving to a new facility, but obviously life and safety is of utmost importance, and we need to get that done ASAP.
Okay. So we're ready to move on, I think, to new business.
Yep, under new budget, we got the budget committee, so we will be presenting our budget at next month's meeting. And historically, we've had the executive committee and any other board members who would like to be a part of our budget discussions. And I think historically, we've had a couple of meetings to set that up, and
Mhm.
we're happy to schedule that as soon as, next week.
I'll go.
Are there any individuals who want to be on the budget committee?
I've done it in the past, I
Okay.
don't have a problem with
That'd be
participating.
great, thank you. Valerie, do you have some time next week?
Yeah, sure.
You want to just pick
Oh,
one?
if it's next week, no, I'm out of town all next week.
It's all
Sorry
about, it's all
that.
about you, Eric.
Got my national meeting next week.
Okay, first week of May then.
Yeah.
First week of May I can do.
There's a day that works best for you all.
I'm pretty open right now.
Thursday or Friday would be better for me.
The fifth or sixth? Okay.
Does Cinco de Mayo?
Somebody want to circulate
Okay,
a
we'll send it, yeah.
email for the
Yeah.
fifth or, maybe let's make it the fifth, maybe.
Perfect. Will do.
Thank you. And this, I'd send that invite to everybody.
Mhm.
And that way, if somebody wants to participate, we'd
They
love to
certainly
have
can.
you. It most likely will be in-house here, so,
Yeah.
we would need to convene together.
Yep. Smaller group, we can do it to City Center even.
Yep.
Okay, our next thing, this was a concept here of the Election Day Fair, so we received really great coverage back on New Year's Eve when we did a free fair day. This is kind of in the same light, but not as a public safety program, but just as a public awareness and getting people involved with the election that's happening on May 10th. So the concept was offering a free fair on Election Day. We wanted to present that to the board and see if you all thought that was a good idea. And if so, we'd be happy to move forward with that.
Looks like it cost us about $3,500.
Yep.
I don't know, yeah, I just don't, I don't know if it has an effect at all. I just don't know if that affects, 50 people or 500 people. It's just hard
We
to
don't know
think.
they're actually gonna
If they
vote
use
or
that,
if
yeah,
they're
if
just
they're
getting a free
using.
ride.
Sure. I mean, the positive feedback we received from the prior campaign around New Year's, we received a whole bunch of media coverage on it. Did we see an uptick in people riding? It's tough to say because we had to collect the ridership numbers based off of drivers doing a kind of a hand count of individuals. I do know the media attention was really positive, and there's something to that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that. I mean, I think we've got a lot of momentum right now, right? We just had our opening. I think that it makes us a good community member. I mean, aside from whether
You
or
should-
not the ridership
if you
is
show your
increased
voters registration
and people
card,
go to
you're right
vote,
for
I
that,
mean,
you could do
we're
that.
offering a
That's
service.
what I'm-
People can take advantage of
Could-
it.
could
We're
you s-
getting out in the community.
Could you say if you show your voter's registration card, you ride for free?
Do you have yours?
Well, yeah, I have mine, but I guess a lot of people don't have it. A lot of people don't
Couldn't
have
find
it,
mine.
yeah, that's true. I guess you would
Because then
just do all
somebody
of that,
filed a
that's true.
challenge that you had to have identification to vote. and-
All right, yeah.
We've got so many, deficits on some of these other monies
Sure.
that we're getting. And $3,500, if that's what
I don't
you
see.
lost the last time,
Sure.
I mean, that would help pay on this $16,000.
Sure, I would.
Was that a cost or just lost?
I just looked at Tuesdays on the
Yeah.
historical
Yeah.
report, and they range about $3,000 to $3,500, and it's not a workday anyway, so not as many people.
Sometimes the good publicity is worth it. I mean,
Well, I was
you know,
You know, and what people do, people who go vote, you know, that's up to them on what they vote for, but we are making an effort to have as much media coverage of KRT as we get close to
Right.
this election.
Yeah.
So
Levy.
it's-
it's a good PR, it's a good PR thing.
So does-
I'd make a motion. You need-
And I don't think we actually need a motion, but we did want to have at least consensus or support from the board. I'm never going to surprise you all with
No.
something like that.
No, I support it. I mean, I think the advertising you get from it, you get some media attention, it makes sense to go ahead and do it.
Okay. On item 7C.
Yep. 7C, we're going to have Jacob present this. This is on mobile ticketing.
Yes, a couple of years ago, we started some research on mobile ticketing, allowing passengers, to use their cell phone to pay their bus fare with. It all started because our current fare boxes, needed an upgrade. And then when we got a quote to upgrade those fare boxes, I think it was like $2 million, $2.5 million. It's a pretty hefty price. So then we started looking at the mobile ticketing, and the one company we like called Masabi, it was around $200,000 for the project management fees, and then the validators, another $200,000. So in total, $400,000, a lot cheaper than our fare boxes we operate today. And this is an example of one of these validators that would be on the bus. It would accept your cell phone, eventually a credit debit card, contactless credit debit cards, reloadable plastic cards. If you travel in a bigger city, you can buy these kind of like hotel keys almost, and then you can reload them with money, either with your bank account. You go to the city center ticket window, and reload it there. Here at our office, and eventually at convenience stores, gas stations, any of those facilities, Kroger, any grocery store, you'd be able to reload them there also. So then, in the last couple of months, we kind of circled back on the projects, and we found out through Masabi that there's a group called NeoRide in Ohio. It's a consortium of different transit agencies in Ohio, and it includes the transit agencies in Akron, Toledo, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and many other smaller agencies within those surrounding areas of those cities. And they also have allowed agencies from Michigan, Kentucky, and Arkansas to join. So Masabi got us in touch with NeoRide to explore the possibility of joining with them, and they've offered the invitation to us to join. So the advantage of joining NeoRide is, instead of paying the $200,000 project management fees, it would only be $15,500 to join. Then you still have your costs for your validators, but you'd be paying that regardless if you join straight with Masabi or with NeoRide. So year one, you're looking at $15,500, and then after that, year two and on, it's $6,600 to be a member of NeoRide.
And it's also an advantage with the NeoRide. We're kind of in a strange spot here in West Virginia. We're the largest facility, so I mean, agency, we're the ones trying to bring the ideas, trying to share ideas. We're not getting enough information. When you're looking at a group, we fit in pretty good. I mean, yeah, Columbus is going to be the exception, Cincinnati, but a lot of the other areas there are our size, maybe a little bigger. They're not all smaller than us, But again, once we can kind of get our foot in the door, we can share ideas, because again, we're not competing for services with all these places. We're all working together, and instead of us banging our head on the walls, reinventing the wheel, we can see what worked, what didn't work, and then there's just so much software and other things out there. It's overwhelming. I mean, you got an idea of what you want, but then these people have had the experience, and I think we can buy into it and have better contacts with that, which will be very helpful in addition to this particular project.
Have you been over there to see how it works and like talk to operations people that are using this?
We haven't talked with the operations people, but most of our research has been with Misabi. We visited with them like Travis and I went to a fair conference before COVID started.
And they're the vendor.
They're the vendor, they're the back-end platform we would be using.
What's the closest entity that uses this?
It would be Cincinnati, Columbus. They're not part of NeoRide, but they are using the Misabi software.
And that was the
Around-
idea, once we knew we were in, we could go there anyway, but be part of a membership, we wanted to see, and get Jacob looking at all the software with the operations side of things. We definitely want to do that and see how that stuff works. So we're not
Misabi's-
committed to buying the stuff.
We can do it
Joining the
before we,
group.
but we have to spend the 15,000 just to do go over and talk to somebody?
Oh,
We
no,
can do that at
don't.
any point.
No, you don't have to pay that to have a conversation, but that's just to join NeoRide and have access to the Misabi equipment.
Okay, so what would
Local ticketing.
the total ticket price be if we like it and we implement it 100%?
100%. For the validators,
Yes.
it's 120,000 for them, plus the 15,000, so roughly 135,000.
Oh, and that's the whole project?
Mm-hmm.
And so they integrate into our existing system somehow? They have a USB
How do we get
port
our
or?
money back out? They once a month or something reimburses the fares?
Right. Yeah, the passenger would use their cell phone to buy the ticket, and then the money would be transferred to our account. But then they're just using their phone to validate it with the driver or
And
the validator. So it would like ding, like fair good, fair collected.
Be your daily credit card.
And there's fees, I mean, we pay 3% fee or
You're
something?
losing that too, right?
Right.
But the convenience where everything's going, we'd love to be able to cash this on the bus, that would be end goal, be able to get to that point.
Can we just add it on? I mean, that's what they do if you pay with credit card for your real estate taxes.
Pay that fee.
Yeah.
Well, you can, but it's having the money available and the convenience. Sometimes you bite that to be able to provide that service is the other
Sure.
side to look at.
I think accepting cash on the bus costs us roughly $300,000 to $400,000 a year.
Accepting cash on the bus? What's that?
Well, it's the
Fare box maintenance.
Okay.
largest road call we have
Road
for
calls.
our
Alright.
mechanics to come out is to fix those. And this won't do away with that, but if you take out the opportunity, if you cut down, if you look at, almost 75, 3/4 of people use a card of some sort, so if we take out those opportunities, every time it rains, we have problems, people putting dollar bills into our fare boxes. So if we can take that and make it a smaller number, we're still gonna have those issues, but we're not gonna have to do the $2 million fix and then still have issues with the currency itself.
I'm not sure I understand. So, it's not really just a vendor relationship. It sounds like we are becoming a member of this entity and what our other obligations are. I don't know, have you guys reviewed the bylaws or
Yeah,
anything
that
like
needs
that?
to
'Cause
be-
we're signing on. That's what this resolution says, like we're becoming a member, we're signing on, and I just don't see anything about what our other obligations are.
Could be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a different legal relationship than just, hiring somebody to do work for us.
Sure, yeah, because joining this or passing this resolution and then having NeoRide pass the resolution doesn't necessarily mean we have to purchase anything, but at the same time, you're correct as far as, hey, what are our legal obligations if we are members, are we?
Yeah, I think we need to have somebody look at that before we sign on.
That's fair.
You mean the bylaws of the entity that,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
it's-
they're
tell
referencing in here,
Tell
yeah.
us what our other obligations are, because we're becoming an actual member of another legal entity,
Mhm.
and I just don't know what.
And they could change their regulations or rules at any
I
time.
mean, we have,
have to follow them, right?
and we have, I'm assuming we have voting rights, and we just need to know what that looks
Yep.
like.
and in the meantime, can you go over to someplace in Kentucky or whatever's nearby that's a similar size agency and watch this in action, see if we even like the product?
Yeah.
And get,
See if the bus
Yeah.
company likes it.
get real
Right, yeah.
feedback from
Yeah,
their
we've
operators.
used it in other agencies traveling, but like the actual system of paying your
Yeah.
fare.
I'd like to
The
see
back
behind the
end,
curtain,
yeah.
you know,
Instead of
what's
trusting
going
the
on.
vendor to tell you how great
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
That's
Because
safe,
we,
yeah.
you know, we did route match and then
Yeah.
I think that's one we didn't like. Is that my correct
That's
recollection?
correct, yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, they might be at that point with,
Yep.
with this vendor.
Mhm.
It'd be an easy step to take.
Mhm.
So there's two things that sounds like need to be done. One is to see what this relationship is with NeoRide, and then if Jacob can go, and
Mhm.
whomever else needs to go to look at it firsthand.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Where do you think would be the logical place to go?
Cincinnati.
Columbus, be close.
There's like 8 different agencies around Cleveland that use it.
Okay,
Somewhere around there.
okay.
Yeah, 'cause Columbus does use Wasabi, they use the validators, but they're not a part of this.
They're not
consortium.
part of
Yeah, they're not a
NeoRide.
partner.
They have so much money that they don't
That's,
have to.
that's the concern
Really?
too,
Worry
yeah,
about
so
it.
let's have the
Yeah.
legal, you know, taking a look at what are we signing up for, then at the same time, hey, what has your experience been as a member of this NeoRide community?
But we've gotta get this to happen. You know, it dawned on me too, they have the mountain cards that they send out. Now, you probably got
Yeah,
them for your kids
yeah,
who are in
for-
school.
yeah.
And I wonder if we could be set up to, that somebody could pay with those.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of, I mean, it's 2022. For someone who comes in from out of state or from out of the area and you say, hey, if you don't have cash on you, you know, you can't ride. Well, I couldn't ride today.
Would you-
I don't know.
Right.
know,
Would you have to
$1.50
sign
a
up
month.
with them?
No, you could
No.
go
Could
out
you-
right with
could
Wasabi,
you-
but you're paying like 200,000.
You couldn't do it on your own?
No,
rather-
You can.
You can, just
You
it
can.
costs 200,000 roughly.
I guess as part of the association, you get a discount.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a larger pool of members, therefore they
Right.
lowered some of those administrative costs is the concept. but-
Basically, it's the software is what you're using, their software.
Yeah, yeah, using Wasabi's like back-end software and equipment.
Well, I think it'd be great to see that put in
Yep.
place.
Right.
Modernize the riding experience. That's the end of the agenda for today. Anybody have any comments or questions that need to add?
Mm.
So,
Appreciate everybody's attendance.
All right.